Hello, I'm Will Carter. If you're hearing this, I guess you know what happened, or what they said happened. The thing is, what they said isn't true, and I've got a hell of a story to tell you. So let's start from the beginning. I was sipping my morning coffee when the message popped up on my phone. It was a simple text from a name I hadn't heard in years, someone who used to be a part of my life, but faded into the background long ago. The text was short, nothing special. "Hey Will, are you okay? I thought you were dead." I stared at it for a moment. Dead? I wasn't dead. At least not yet. I thought it was some sort of joke. But when I checked my notifications, things started to feel off. Facebook, Twitter, even my old email account had alerts, messages, posts, all about me. People I hadn't talked to in years were leaving comments, condolences, and I even found a post from an old coworker with the headline, "Rip Will Carter." It was surreal. My heart skipped a beat as I scrolled through, and there it was, a post from my family. I stopped in my tracks. The image was a picture of me, a photo I hadn't seen in years, at my college graduation, looking young and hopeful. It was surrounded by flowers, and there were comments about me being gone too soon, how tragic it all was. I had to blink a few times, not quite believing it. My stomach twisted as I tapped on the video, expecting to see a mistake, maybe a sick joke. But what I saw next shattered everything. The video was recorded at St. Albans Church, the same place where my family always went for Sunday services. The camera zoomed in on two figures standing at the podium. My mother, dressed in black lace and pearls, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. My father, stiff as a board, reading from a paper with trembling hands. They were reading my obituary. They were reading about me. The words didn't match what I knew, what I'd lived. "He passed away far too young," my father's voice echoed in the video. "He lost his way, but we loved him. We did everything we could for him." I felt my blood run cold. I wasn't dead, not even close, but my family had just sold me a lie. My obituary, my death notice, wasn't some tragic accident. It was part of a plan they had executed with chilling precision. I paused the video trying to process it, and then there it was, the hammer falling. A comment from my sister, Elena. "We miss you every day, Will," it read, followed by a photo of my family, smiling like they hadn't just buried me in lies. It felt like someone had ripped my heart out and stomped on it. But I wasn't dead. I was sitting in my apartment, alive, breathing. The whole thing, the funeral, the fake eulogy, the photo slideshow, was a lie. A lie that they had carefully crafted to erase me. I couldn't breathe. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. I reached for my phone again, scrolling through my family's social media. The truth was all over the place, like a puzzle I didn't want to solve. They had posted about my death months ago. Not a car accident, not a tragic loss. They'd simply erased me. And I knew in that moment, it wasn't just a mistake, it was a choice. It wasn't about mourning me, it was about moving on without me. It was about protecting themselves and their image. And the worst part? They'd done it all to cash in on the life insurance policy they'd taken out on me. My mind raced. How could they do this? How could they bury me alive? And then, another thought surfaced. Why hadn't anyone tried to reach me? Why hadn't any of them called? Not a single message, no letters, no, "Are you okay?" There had been no, "I miss you," no attempt to make things right. They had just moved on with their lives, replacing me like a forgotten memory. I sat there for what felt like hours, frozen, not knowing what to do next. But one thing was clear. I couldn't let them get away with this. So I did what anyone would do when they've been buried by their own family. I dug. I dug into every document, every record, every piece of evidence I could find. But I needed to know. I needed to know how far this lie had gone. I needed to confront them, to bring the truth into the light. I needed them to face what they had done, and I'd be damned if I wasn't the one to make it happen. But the question was, how? They thought I was gone, erased from their lives. But I was still here, and I was going to make sure they knew it. Stay tuned, because ghosts don't stay buried forever. Boo. It started with a click. Just one. Then another. And before I knew it, I was neck deep in digital shadows cast by people who wanted me gone. The first thing I did was check my own records. Tax returns, apartment leases, bank statements, health insurance, anything I could get my hands on to prove I was alive and active over the past few years. Everything was in order. I had paper trails, rent receipts, employment contracts, even time-stamped vacation photos from places they claimed I died near. I wasn't just alive, I had proof I'd never stopped living. But that wasn't enough. I needed to know why. Why they'd gone so far. Why they needed me dead. And I wasn't naive. I had my suspicions. Life insurance. That afternoon, I called an old acquaintance, Sam, a friend from my early corporate days. He worked in compliance at a regional bank and owed me a few favors. I asked him casually if he could look into any life insurance payouts connected to my name. At first, he hesitated, legality and all that. But when I told him my family held a funeral for me while I was drinking coffee 3 states away, he said, "Give me a day." 3 hours later, he texted, $1.2 million, payout processed 18 months ago, to Elena Carter, policy underwritten by Horizon Mutual. You sure you're alive? Yeah, Sam, I'm real damn sure. I stared at the screen, jaw tight. The number didn't surprise me. What did was the timing. 18 months ago. That was exactly when I tried to reconnect with my father. Sent him a letter after 15 years of silence. He never replied. Instead, they made me legally dead. It wasn't just betrayal, it was premeditated. I dug deeper. Horizon Mutual had issued the policy 6 years ago, in my name, listing Elena as the primary beneficiary. The listed contact was our father's old office number. The policy had my social security number, signature, and a fake death certificate filed through a small office in a rural county I'd never even been to. I called the county clerk's office. The woman on the line said cheerfully, "Oh yes, we processed that certificate. Car accident overseas, closed casket." "How did you verify it?" I asked, my voice calm but tight. "Family confirmation and a translated foreign coroner's report. All standard." She paused. "I assume you're a relative?" "No," I said. "I'm the guy they buried." Click. She hung up. That was when I called a lawyer. Not one of those billboard types or internet search results. I found someone who used to handle small business fraud cases. Young guy, smart, sharp. I showed up in his office the next morning with a manila folder stuffed with every piece of evidence I had. He flipped through the pages slowly. "You want to sue them?" he asked. I shook my head. "Not yet. I want to undo the death certificate, and I want a fraud complaint filed." He looked at me for a long second. "You know this could get ugly. I'm counting on it, but the law takes time. Bureaucracy doesn't care that your name's been dragged through a grave." I couldn't just wait. I needed to face them. Not in a courtroom, in person. They'd buried me in silence. Now they'd see I wasn't done breathing. Before I left his office, the lawyer said something that stuck with me. "You're not just a man trying to reclaim your identity. You're walking into a war." I nodded. "Good. I've got nothing left to lose." That night I sat in my dark apartment, the soft hum of the fridge the only sound. I pulled up Elena's Instagram. Her life was still public. Photos of her smiling in front of a new house, the caption reading, "Built from love and legacy." Legacy, huh? Bought with my name on a fake tombstone. My phone buzzed again. Another message. This time from someone I hadn't talked to since high school. "Will, I just saw something. Did your family really say you died? Are you okay?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, "I'm more alive than ever, and they're going to find that out real soon." The invitation came in silence. No name, no explanation, just a short message from an unknown number. Memorial service for Will Carter. This Sunday, St. Albans, 11 a.m. They were still doing it, holding a full-blown memorial, preaching grief for a man they'd buried with lies. Maybe to keep the story alive. Maybe to quiet the whispers from the insurance company. Either way, it wasn't for me, it was for them. But I would be there, in the flesh. I stood by my window that night, looking out over the city. The streetlights flickered like they had something to say. My reflection stared back at me in the glass. Older, sharper, quieter, but still here. Still me. That weekend I packed light. Just a suit. Black, sharp, simple. The kind of suit you wear to a funeral. I printed out every document I needed. My passport, utility bills, tax filings, photos, anything with a date and my name. I slipped them into a folder, tucked it under my coat like armor. I hadn't been back to my hometown in over a decade. Last time I drove those roads, I was 20 pounds lighter, angrier, and completely alone. I remember the way my mother looked at me the night they pushed me out, like I was something shameful. My father didn't even look at me, just handed me a garbage bag full of my things and told me to leave quietly. Now I was driving back with a full tank and a fire in my chest. The town hadn't changed much. Still small, still quiet, still too polite for its own good. I passed the same gas station I used to ride my bike to as a kid, the same library where I did my first book report. It felt like stepping into a painting I used to live in, only now the frame didn't quite fit. St. Albans stood at the top of the hill, just like I remembered. White stone, blue trim, cross on the steeple catching the sun, and below it, the parking lot was full, packed like a festival. So many people showed up to mourn me. I almost laughed. I parked across the street. My hands didn't shake. I thought they might, but they didn't. Instead, I sat there, letting the moment settle, letting the truth wrap itself around me like a second skin. They thought I was dead. They prayed for my soul, made speeches, took pictures, cashed a check. But they had no idea. The air was still as I stepped out of the car. I walked toward the church, folder in hand, dressed in black like everyone else. Except I wasn't here to grieve. I was here to resurrect. I paused at the front gate, just out of sight. I could hear the music playing inside. Soft organ hymns. The kind my mother used to hum while polishing silverware. The kind that sounded holy until you heard it in a house full of secrets. Through the stained glass, I saw movement. People standing, wiping tears, passing tissues. My photo sat at the front of the altar surrounded by lilies, my name etched into a fake memorial plaque. I took a deep breath. This wasn't just about clearing my name. This was about reclaiming something they stole. Not just my identity, my life. I didn't knock, I didn't announce myself. I was the storm they didn't see coming. The church doors creaked open like the punchline to a cosmic joke. Heads turned, one by one. The air inside St. Albans was thick with staged grief, soft organ music, and the scent of expensive flowers. My face, the one they swore was gone forever, hung in a frame next to the pulpit, haloed in lilies and lies. And then I walked in. No one spoke, no one moved. Even the music faltered, the organist's hands falling away from the keys as if the notes themselves didn't know what to do anymore. I took my time. Slow steps, polished shoes clicking against marble tile. The sound echoed, louder with every stride. I didn't break eye contact with a single person. They watched me like I was an apparition, a ghost rising from a grave no one had actually dug. My sister saw me first. Elena was mid-sentence. Microphone in hand, lips parted around some sugar-coated tribute. Her eyes locked on mine. She froze. The blood drained from her face, and the mic slipped slightly, catching the softest tremble in her voice. My mother gasped. My father flinched like he'd seen a demon. No one else made a sound. I stopped in the center aisle, directly under the vaulted ceiling, and took off my sunglasses. Let them see. Let them all see. I heard I died, I said. My voice carried. A few people jolted. Some blinked hard. Others muttered prayers. One woman actually clutched her chest like she might faint. My mother dabbed at her eyes, though I wasn't sure if the tears were fear, fury, or both. I held up the folder. This says otherwise, I continued. Passport stamps, tax records, apartment leases, emails, photos, video. Hell, even a parking ticket from 2 months ago. Not exactly ghost behavior. Still silence. I turned toward the front, locking eyes with Elena. You filed a life insurance claim, took the money, held this show, sold the lie. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. You didn't lose a brother, I said. You erased one. My mother rose slowly, all dramatic poise, voice trembling. Will, honey, you don't understand. We thought you were gone. We didn't know. The air outside the church felt different. Clean, cold, real. I walked until I couldn't hear the murmurs anymore, until the smell of lilies and perfume faded behind me, until the sound of my own footsteps was the only thing left. For a long moment, I just stood there in the lot, watching the wind move through the trees like it was clearing something away. Maybe it was. Maybe it needed to. A car door opened behind me. Light footsteps followed, hesitant, unsteady. I didn't turn around. Uncle Will? I hadn't heard that name in 2 decades. I turned slowly. A boy, no, a man now stood there. Sam, my cousin's kid. Last time I saw him, he was still in diapers. Now he looked like he worked construction and drove a pickup. I didn't know, he said. They told us you left, that you didn't want to be part of the family anymore. I nodded. That's the version they liked better. He looked down. I'm sorry. I offered a tired smile. You didn't do anything wrong. He hesitated. What happens now? I walk away, I said simply. And I meant it. The confrontation inside the church wasn't justice. It was confirmation. Confirmation that the people I once called family weren't worth caring anymore. Not their guilt, not their silence, not their lies. I'd come hoping maybe for a crack in the wall, a pause, a sliver of regret. Instead, I got a final nail in the coffin they built for me. And weirdly enough, I felt lighter. When someone tells you who they are, again and again, you either believe them or keep bleeding from the same wound. I was done bleeding. That night back in my apartment, I poured a glass of bourbon and watched the skyline blink against the dark. It wasn't forgiveness I felt, not even anger anymore. It was peace. I didn't need them to make it right. I didn't need their approval, their tears, or their version of my story. I had my own. I grabbed my old journal from the shelf, dusty but still mine. Flipping to a blank page, I wrote 7 words in thick black ink. They buried me. I buried the past. For the first time in years, I slept without waking up angry. Some stories end quietly. Mine didn't. Mine ended with church bells and a door slamming behind me. But what mattered more was what happened after. Not the confrontation, not the fallout, but the after. Because once you walk out of your own funeral, there's really only one thing left to do. Live, and I did. The week following the memorial, I took the folder of evidence and dropped it off with my lawyer. Let him handle the paperwork, the fraud claims, the legal mess. I was done chasing justice. It would come in its own time. And if it didn't, that was fine too. What I wanted, what I needed, was already mine, my life back. I didn't move towns, didn't change my name. I didn't hide. I stayed. I went back to work. My clients, good people, real people, had no idea anything had happened. And honestly, that was the way I liked it. They didn't see me as a victim. Just Will Carter, the guy who showed up on time, did solid work, and shook your hand like he meant it. One day I got a message from a stranger, a man in his 60s from Indiana. Said he heard about my story through someone who'd heard my name on a podcast. Said his own brother had cut him out of the family years ago, and no one ever looked back. I thought I was the only one, he wrote, but hearing what you did gave me something I haven't had in a while. Closure. I sat with that message for a long time. Not because it hurt, because it didn't. It healed. I didn't set out to be anyone's example. I just didn't want to disappear quietly. But if my story helped someone else say enough, helped one man draw a line in the sand and walk on the side of his own dignity, then maybe that was worth more than revenge. I started writing again, not for an audience, just for me. Little by little, I shared pieces of my story, anonymous at first, then bolder. People listened, not out of pity, out of recognition. Turns out there are a lot of us, men who were cast out, cut off, erased because we didn't play by the rules of broken homes and fragile egos. We survived, and some of us even thrived. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't see a man trying to get back what was taken from him. I see a man who took his life back with both hands and didn't ask for permission. That's the thing about being written off. Once the page is blank, you can write something new, better, honest. I'm not dead. I'm just getting started. If this story resonated with you, don't just keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, subscribe for more powerful stories, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters, and I read every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.